So I read a very, you could say, alarming study or opinion survey, but realistically speaking, it's not that alarming, and I'll explain why. It was a study by Afrobarometer, and they ask the public in South Africa a variety of questions over a time period, and then, they determine like a graph. And one of the questions is the type of system that they prefer. Would they prefer democracy or military rule? And then what percentage say they prefer democracy and what percentage prefer military rule? And now, for the first time, the people who said they prefer military rule is bigger than the people who said they prefer democracy.
And which country was the poll done?
In South Africa.
In South Africa.
It's 49% of people in South Africa now say they prefer military rule.
Wow.
But the reason why I say it's not that alarming is because the military isn't able. It's very alarming to say the military should take over the country, but the South African military is basically non-existent. And then they say that the people who prefer that is much higher under especially unemployed people and people who live in poverty. And it's because they've lost faith in the system.
They want decisiveness.
Yeah, exactly.
They want a leader.
That's exactly it.
And we don't have any
They feel
leadership.
that there's nothing, there's a void. And they feel maybe if we get the army to come in, then that will fix the void.
And I think they don't really mean the army. They just mean an individual or group of individuals that are tough, decisive, and get on with fixing the country.
Get the corrupt politicians thrown in jail and so forth. But the problem in South Africa is it's incentivized for the president not to take the appropriate action. Because if Cyril Ramaphosa, he knows who the corrupt politicians are. But if he throws them in jail, it's the end of his political career. They're going to kick him out. So if he wants to remain, that's the problem with the system we're in. If he wants to stay president, he has to ensure that he is an incompetent president.
He has to look the other way.
He has to look the other way.
He has to form commissions and national dialogues
and so he does,
and delay everything.
It's not necessary to form all these commissions because they know who the people are that should be prosecuted.
I think it goes further than that. I think he knows who the bad guys are. He knows what they're doing, but they've got things on him.
I think you're right.
They've got a full file on what Cyril Ramaphosa has done wrong, starting with maybe ending with Pala.
Yeah.
So he's guilty as sin, in my view.
Yeah, I think you're right. If everyone has dirt on everyone, then no one is able to do anything about
Mutually assured destruction.
Yes. But I think that's the point you made about privatizations. The private security industry is more than double the police and the army combined in South Africa. And so even this notion that if people say we want the army to take over the country, what they really say is that they are fed up with the system. They want something else. They want decisiveness. But the army cannot take over the country. It's not possible. It's not within the realm of possibilities. But if they tried that, then the private security sphere could stop them. And so that's this void or this vacuum that has been created by political incompetence. And that vacuum is filled, as I said, by well-organized communities, but it could also be filled by bad actors.
But I'm particularly interested in helping fund some civil disobedience.
Yeah.
Because I'm hurtful with the ANC. I've had enough. I think we need to poke the bear in the eye and pressure them.
Yep.
Do you have ideas of civil disobedience that some of us might fund and get behind?
So that's the fourth thing. So remember, the first was the think tank. The second is local advocacy. The third is international advocacy. And then the fourth is to convert that into tangible action. And that includes civil disobedience. Now, civil disobedience sounds like something that gives people some form of a scare, but we've had many examples of that in South Africa. Gandhi was famously with civil disobedience, the ANC, but even more recently, the COVID lockdown was eventually ended as a result of people saying, these lockdown rules are crazy, we're just not going to do it anymore. And the e-toll is also a great example of that, where
exactly.
They eventually stopped the e-toll system because people in big enough numbers just said, we're not going to participate.
So if 1,000 of us, me and 999 other friends, said we're just not paying tax.
Yeah. I think what keeps the system in place today is the compliance of taxpayers in general and the private sector. Big businesses enforcing these destructive BEE laws and so forth. And if we can get taxpayers and the private sector to use this immense leverage that they have, it's going to have a massive impact. But people are scared to do that because they don't want to be the only one to do it. If it's just you saying, I don't want to pay taxes, then they're going to throw you in jail. And so, but there are legal ways of tax protest, you could say. And we are looking at that. Into that, we're speaking with some economists and researchers. One of the ideas that a lot of people have spoken about is creating a trust fund and then getting people to pay their tax money into a trust fund. and then make certain demands. We don't know if that's the best way, because the government could still go for
the trustees.
Yeah, or they could go for the elderly couple who paid their money into a trust fund, and now they get prosecuted for not paying taxes. There are other ways. I don't want to say too much now because we're busy looking into that and researching it, but I think there is some real practical things we can do in terms of...
So sign me up and the Truth Report family up for one of these for some great civil disobedience, because enough's enough.
Yeah.
You know, why are we paying tax to a government that wastes half of it and steals the other half?
Yeah.
Why?
What I should say, I think what we think could work is, instead of trying to get this nationwide tax protesting going, is to use a particular community or a particular group of people as some form of a pilot project, and say we want to get a particular community, or you mentioned 1,000 people, for example, and say within this group we're gonna test this initiative, and then if you can see that it works, then it becomes scalable and you could do it on a bigger scale.
And I think you need to look into technology, because blockchain has a manifestation in DAO, decentralized autonomous organizations. Yeah. And a DAO is the ideal mechanism for something like this, because you set a DAO up as an algorithmic entity where certain things happen on the basis of certain metrics. So, for example, if me and my 999 friends committed our tax money, we're paying tax, we know what the amount is, and the money goes into the DAO, subject to the government delivering on what it's promised to our community, our municipality, our country, we release the DAO releases the tax money, or doesn't.
Yeah. Yes.
And technology can be a real friend here.
And obviously you need a proper legal representation. You need like senior advocates, a legal team, and lawyers.
DAO has no human running it.
Yeah.
It's an algorithm. So how do you see an algorithm?
So
Good luck, ANC.
This is something else that we need to do, is to look at new technology and how could that be used, also, especially when talking about practical action. And I think there are 3 new avenues that we should look into. There could be more. One is blockchain. It's a complete game changer if people were to use it on a massive scale. But people don't use it on that bigger scale, but it's growing. But what are the potential consequences of blockchain when we're talking about getting towards a better, more decentralized system?
Blockchain is decentralized.
Exactly. And the second is AI. So AI is still very much in the beginning phase, and just looking at ChatGPT and Grok, how much it has developed from the beginning of this year up to where we are now. And so AI is going to open up a whole bunch of things. And then the other is robotics. And I think that's maybe going to be the third of the 3. But I had a fascinating conversation with someone recently about how the world could change as a result of this, and what could the consequences be if people start using robots. And now that's a scary idea, but the technology is coming, so we should talk about it. We cannot just ignore it. And so we need to do some proper research, and we need to do conferences on where are these things going, but not just what's going to happen with AI, but more how can we use this to move towards a more decentralized system. And that's something that I'm very excited about. And we want to do that in the coming year as well.